responsible to be even out of your parents' house. I think your question should be what's wrong with Singaporeans.
I think we're standing on the high ground here, where we're talking of decent values and all that, but there's also the reality where there are certain views and where husband seeking and wife seeking are based on what can be provided for them after marriage, and I think materialism is an important factor. 1 in 5 marriages was an inter-ethnic union in 2011. And this was up from 1 in 8. So this is a significant increase. And the sharp rise was largely driven by Singaporeans marrying foreigners rather than Singaporeans, or Singaporeans of a different race, same race or different race. And I think it's because local women have more choices now, and with more choices, they exercise that choice.
So but didn't you say earlier on there was a statistics that 77% of the mixed marriages were Singapore men marrying foreigners?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's because our boys go overseas and they go when they're 22 and 23 and they come back after 4 years and they're grown men, and you have to expect that the chances of them bringing back a foreign woman are much higher.
Also, part of the reason for that is that men can't find local women. So they go hunting for brides in Vietnam, in China, in the Philippines, and all that.
I think it's a certain type of man.
I guess when the question of they can't find local women again comes back to the mindset. You know, Singaporean men can't find the women that they feel that they idealize. They're probably very subservient, you know, culturally competent.
Why don't we ask the boys
Chris?
what it is they want?
What do you expect of a woman? Roger.
I mean, I would expect a woman to not be materialistic, of course. I think I would expect her to be
natural.
Yeah. I would expect her to be able to cook and clean. I mean, that's that's what I expect. Actually, a lot of my.
Why do you expect her to cook and clean on her own for you?
I mean, as a Singaporean man, we've been taught from young that our mothers, we look to our mothers as people who can cook and clean and be able to do the laundry for us since young. And that's why as we grow older, we Singaporeans think of us as being sheltered and everything because of the way they were brought up.
Okay.
Yeah. So naturally, when we find a woman, we want someone who are like our mothers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rosh? What do you expect of your wife?
Of my wife, I just want love. No, I want to marry my best friend, and I know who she is. And tonight I'm going to a studio to record a song about it. And yeah, I mean, you talk about cooking and cleaning, and like, that's great and all, but like now we have the Industrial Revolution and there's laundry cleaners and
Chris isn't unique in those thoughts, and it's not because he's Singaporean. There are plenty of men the world over who think that that's what a woman's for, but it's got something to do with exposure and education and upbringing. And I mean, pity the poor man that thinks like that, because
well, not necessarily. You know, sorry, I don't want everybody to like go on to him. Like, you know what I mean? Because not necessarily. If we didn't have like electronics or these cameras that are recording us right now, everything we're doing, if we didn't have Facebook and a wall to write on, we'd be writing on this wall. You know what I mean? It's
we wouldn't, and not everyone thinks that Facebook is the center of the universe.
Sure, I agree. I'm just using it as an example of technology. You know what I mean? But if you remain like as primitive, the word is primitive because today we can do that ourselves and we can cook ourselves.
Yeah.
But if you want to remain primitive and keep it in your house, then yes, but get with the times.
You know, I think otherwise your choice is limited.
It's like you got one. You can date many chicks, but you got like one girl. I don't know where you're gonna find her.
You know,
when
your
you find
options
her, call me.
is really limited as far as Singaporean girls are concerned. You know, we grew up now. I mean, most of the Singapore family has housekeepers. You know, domestic helpers. Parents are working. You know, basically, I don't see any of the children doing house chores. Any of the children taught how to cook. you know. And I see 25, 28 years old who said, you know, when you say, can you, if there's a potluck dinner or something, can you bring something? I don't know how to cook leh. And say, okay, you know, but not even say, oh, I'll try and make something. I see this recipe, I don't mind. But the reality is that, because we lived all under one roof, multi-generational, so sometimes we have grandparents and so.
Sure.
Grandparents or grandma or mom who's at home who are not working, they would be the one taking care of the house. So most of the Singaporean, half the time, they eat out. Maybe 3/4, right? So you expect them to cook and clean for you. They must come from a household that they have already do this kind of chores for themselves. So they're independent. And you get this experience when you're overseas. Half the time when parents are not there, mom is not there, grandmother is not there to help you do the house. You know, you come home expecting dinner is on the table, someone will wash up, clean up for you. So I'm sorry, you're living. It's very hard.
Which is why, like, a lot of men actually go abroad to find Vietnamese wives and things like that, because it is their wired to be this way, you know.
Wired to be this way.
They're poor. I mean, they're built up to be this way in the sense that the Vietnamese women know how to cook and know how to clean and things like that. So it's just women in Singapore are less and less like this nowadays.
I think they haven't been in that. Well, not as long as I've lived here. And I remember very clearly a tradesman came to the house and I never had a maid, and he was asking me, so who cleans? I say, I do. Who cooks? I do. And who does the washing? I do. And he looked at me like, wow, Singapore girl, don't do that. That was 30 years ago. So your girl doesn't exist, and she hasn't. And I think it's because in Singapore, women have opportunities that they have nowhere else in the world.
So you think
opportunities and debt? Because
what debt?
Debt.
Oh yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you can't blame Singapore women if they go after the money, which I don't believe it. Because it's a society that goes after the money.
Yeah.
So you have to be very mindful of your values, because then they're reflected in the choice that the people make. So if you send message that is all about money, or if you contract so much debt in your life that you have only to work and that's it, then you're becoming a boring husband. Your girlfriends or wife will always go after the money, because it's how you set your society that make the difference. So I don't think that is fair in a way, no, to say that Singapore women, I don't have a great experience. But I can assure that when we met, I was at the beginning of my career. I didn't have any money at that time. And so actually what I like very much was exactly the opposite of this myth of the money, was they're willing to take a chance.
Yeah, like the risk.
And so I think that this is still there if you are able to set as really an important value. On the issue of Singaporean marrying foreign wife, I'm not qualified to comment, but as employer, I remember many years ago that I have an employee, and
Roberto was with the EDB for some good years.
And but I had an employee, and was a smart guy, and he came to me and said, "I'm gonna get married," and I said, "That's great, it's fantastic." And when it's happened, I said, "Well, I found my spouse." And I said, "Well, what do you mean you found my spouse? You come to an..." I said, "Yeah, because now I'm going up country." I was referring to Malaysia to find my spouse. And I said, "You find someone from here?" And he said, "No, actually from a very small village." And I said, "How do you meet?" "But actually, we have not met." This is an arranged type of thing. And was exactly what Chris mentioned, or going to Vietnam or going to Thailand. So the idea was to find a spouse with benefits, or a friend with benefits, someone that provides you with sexual satisfaction, wash your car, cook for you, doesn't spend too much money, and she's on call. But that is not
she's on
call, meaning at your back.
Back and call.
But this is not the foundation for a lasting relation. And this is, first and foremost, it's not about love.
Yeah. So I have to add, like, the character is also very important, yeah, in a spouse that you find.
But what are you going to bring to this
Yeah.
relationship? Oh, you're putting all on
Yeah.
her. Why does she have to meet your expectations? Marriages survive because
expectation, lots
there
of
is
expectation.
understanding and compromise. And I mean, we all started out poor and we all scraped and worked together, all three couples here. So I mean, what are you bringing to this?
Of course, if you talk about bringing character, I mean, love is a mutual thing. So,
Really?
yeah, really, yeah. So I'm talking about, like, when I talk about qualities that I look for in a girl, because in terms of qualities, there is a certain thing that I have in mind. But of course, when it comes to myself, I have qualities that I bring to the table for her as well. And of course, it is up to her discretion if she wants to accept me as a partner as well.
Okay, I'm going to save Chris and we have to go for a break.
Yeah.
But when we come back, I think we've been talking about good, wholesome values that we want to have. But we also have to consider the reality of what Singaporean men want and what Singaporean men want. And I'll share some figures with you after this.